All right, perfect.
I'm easy.
All right. Welcome to a very special episode of Eat the Artist podcast. We are here at an incredible venue that holds a special place in my heart, a sentiment shared by many here in Ybor City and the surrounding Bay Area. And I've been lucky enough to play here a couple times on the same stages as so many great artists, and was even engaged here in incredible fashion thanks to everyone here and the bands. I'm, of course, talking about Crowbar, the one and only Crowbar, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by the one that makes it all happen and is fighting to make sure it stays happening, Mr. Tom DeGeorge. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. You let us know that you already did a couple of these events today, so I'm so excited that you were able to, push one more out for us.
No problem.
So we're back with live events finally after being closed since March. I'm sure glad to see you able to put events on again. I already got my tickets for the Discord 3 show. Excited to just be back in the music. It's be so awesome. And I want to talk about reopening and the continued fight to preserve our independent stages and the venues across the country. But first, I want to take people back a bit. I want to talk about the road to the first opening of Crowbar and how you ended up being a part of the live music scene.
Yeah, so we opened in 2006. I started working in live music venues in college. I was going to Penn State University, and so like most people, you work your way. When you're in school, you have to make money. So while I was going to school over there, I was majoring in criminal justice with a minor in sociology, and I was bouncing at venues. There was actually a venue in State College, PA, which is Penn State University. Basically, the university is basically that whole town.
Yeah, my dad's from Altoona. I know all about that.
So
life,
there's
yeah.
a venue there called Crowbar that was like one of the first venues that I worked at for an extended period of time. And I was, like I said, bouncing there. I worked there for a couple years. And then after I graduated, I was like, I really like doing this stuff. And I had went in 1996, I had went to Atlanta, Georgia. I did my internship there at the Olympics in 1996, doing security at the Olympics. And on a day off, I had went to the masquerade out there. And I was like, man, I don't know how we talk on this podcast, but I was like, this fucking place is awesome,
Yeah.
So after I graduated, I was like, I like this. Before I go to the police academy, I'm going to put out some resumes, see what happens. My dad thought I was crazy. And I ended up somehow getting hired by the Masquerade in Atlanta. They flew me out there. They gave me the job. I was a little surprised because I mean, literally at Crowbar, the farthest I had went was at the head of security position. But when I talked to them and they saw I had done security at the Olympics and they saw that I had a degree, I think, and I knew a lot about the live music industry, but I mean, I was like 23.
Right.
You know what I mean? I look back on that now and I'm like, I was running that place and it was, between heaven, hell, and purgatory and the music park, it's like 7,000, 8,000 people sometimes.
Wow.
And I was running the whole thing. And I was like, wow, I can't believe they gave me this gig. I'm 23 years old. So what happened was, and then on top of it, I was very, like, all the owners were there. The home offices were there. And so every week we'd have like a meeting with the 3 owners, myself, the bookers, the promoters. And I felt like I was being micromanaged. I'm like, these motherfuckers are micromanaging me. They gave me the job to run this place. I want to be running this place.
Right.
I look back on it, I'm like, wow, what a cocky little shit you were. Because I was 23. I should be like soaking up whatever knowledge they wanted to give me. So the one that was here, there was a masquerade here where the Ritz Theater is now.
Okay.
It had been there for years, doing anything from Nirvana played there.
Wow.
But so their manager had quit and they were like, hey, you think we're micromanaging you? You want to move to Tampa? Because I had just broke up with my girlfriend. I was like, I'll move to Tampa. So they put me in a U-Haul, sent me out here. I moved here and I ran that until it closed in 2006. And then, during the 5 years I was here, I really fell in love with Ybor City and the community out here. I had met a lot of nice, good people out here. And people like Don Barco. He's passed away now, but he used to be the owner over at King Corona. I had a lot of good mentoring talks with him where he told me of the importance about being part of the community, and then people, like Tony Refugiato, who's done so much in this area. I was doing a lot of work with him because he was booking a lot of shows at Masquerade, and then the owners too. I became a sponge to them and different things, and we still keep in contact now. But basically, when that closed in 2006, and they said, "Hey, you want to come back to Atlanta?" Because they were ready to have me come right back there and get rid of who was there. And I says, "No, I think I really like it out here. I think if I'm going to open anything, now's the time for me to do it." And we had closed in February of 2006, and by October 26, 2006, I had opened this place. So it took me like 6 or 7 months after I had left there. But I really felt like for a smaller room that I could pull it off. I was like, you know enough of what you're doing. At first, we had even tried to go back into the Masquerade with new partners, and I'm really glad that never happened because I think I would have failed miserably. I just don't think I had enough knowledge. I thought I did, but I didn't. Once you go from management to ownership, you realize there's a whole other set of things that need to be done that I didn't have to do, or I was like, wow, there's other stuff other than just running day-to-day operations. So luckily I found this place, and it's worked out, I think. I think we have a nice room here.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I loved, talking about the size of the room. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm sure you've heard of this place, Stone Pony. Mm-hmm. So, I grew up going to concerts there and had to play there. I got to play there, and I came in here, and immediately I was like, wow, it's just that same
Well, Jersey,
vibe.
I'm originally from Erie, Pennsylvania, which is just a small blue collar. They used to call it Dreary Erie, the mistake on the lake, which my sister always gets mad at me. She's the assistant to the mayor, and she's like, we're making it better. I say this, when I call it Dreary Erie, the mistake from the lake, it's like a badge of courage and love and honor. Like, it snows for 6 months there because we get all the lake effect snow.
Right.
And it's just a really blue collar, genuine, tough, but caring, loving area. And so, I think a combination of that, Jersey, I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan,
Yes.
of course. And just my years that I spent with the Masquerade and stuff, I just bundled all that up and took all that knowledge into here. And and that's part of it. I think that's where you get that personality of the room from, is that just real simple, it's just a rock box,
Right, yeah.
So,
I want to talk about two things. You talk about, really wanting to buy into the community and some mentorship. So what about this community, really made you want to buy in? And then, probably a lot to do with, like you said, where you're from. And what kind of impact were you looking to have on that community by opening this place up?
I don't know. I get, it wasn't cerebral. It wasn't necessarily like premeditated. I think as time goes on, you just make a natural transition into wanting to be more involved. And there's, like I said, there's people that impact you, people that take the time out to teach you. So when you get to that point in your life where you feel comfortable mentoring others, it's just the natural progression of things as they go on. So, I have people all the time that either say to me that they want to open up a place, or that they want to partner with something, or that they want to start a new project. How do I do this? And they'll ask me advice. And I'm secure enough in my abilities that I've never had a problem giving advice to people. I do tend sometimes to play devil's advocate, because I think it's super important when you're going to go into a brick and mortar, especially when people ask me about opening up a venue. I am very devil's advocate for them, because I feel that it's my duty to tell them how hard it is. And then if they still want to do it, I've always been the one to say, listen, I'll come in there, I'll help you, I'll tell you where to put the stuff, and as you're open, I'll give you advice. But it is very tough to do. I think that because, for Tampa and Florida itself is not considered a major market. So we were struggling for a long time to get more artists to come out here. And I believe that Crowbar itself was very influential in getting us more artists because once the Orpheum moved into their bigger space, I just felt like we finally, like this room is the mid-sized room that this area really needed. You know, in pre-COVID, I got to a point where I was averaging 20, sometimes 30 touring shows a month, where we do shows every single day or have two on Sundays where we do a matinee and evening show. I mean, we were doing so many shows, and it got to the point where, especially over the last few years pre-COVID, where bands were telling me, like when we were routing, we specifically came to Florida because we wanted to play this room, and it was the show we were looking forward to. So I think places like this, and you know the Orpheum now that's over there, the Attic, the Ritz, quality venues like that have helped Florida become a much stronger market than it was 10, 15 years ago. You know. And so that's good because we're getting a lot of shows. Hopefully, we'll get back to that at some point when it's safe to do so.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the location. You know, I think like the actual inside of this place. You know, what was first of all, I love the spot. You know, like I already told you, it reminds me of home a little bit. But was it, you know, when you were switching for the masquerades, trying to find your own spot? Did this one come quick? Did you already know about it? What was your beforehand?
Okay, so here's what happened. This is a true story. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at different properties. I wasn't even looking at this place. And a buddy of mine hit me up. It was another type of thing. He was like, listen, I really want to go into this place. I don't know how to do it. He wanted to move an Irish pub here. And I said, okay. So I put the proposal together for him and worked as the middleman with the landlord to secure this deal for him. And I put together a really good deal. And it's just so weird because I'm sitting there, and once again, I was looking at bigger spaces. Right. So I never really thought about it. And then I did all this work for the guy, got the landlord to agree. The landlord, we were ready to do it. And then the guy gets back to me and says, man, I'm sorry I made you do all that work, but my money guy backed out on me. So it's not going to happen. And I says, it's no problem. I'll let the landlord know. And then I had thought about it, and I talked to my business partner, and I said, hey, listen, you know, what if we went into here? And he says, I don't know. What do you think? I says, well, look at this deal I put together for this guy. It's a great deal. I don't see how it wouldn't work. So I called the landlord, my landlord now, and I just said, hey, you know, I've been looking for a spot, and this is what I want to do. He himself was an artist. He's a musician, but he also does photography. If you've never heard of him, you should check him out. His name's Ron Rampolla. He's very talented. He's got a lot of great photography out there, and he does exhibits. And that's what happened. And we ended up coming in and just, you know, it was right there, right in front of me the whole time, and I never really saw it until the other guy dropped the ball. And then I was like, well, shit, let's just do that, you know, and it ended up working out.
That's awesome. Well, I think we're all grateful that it worked out.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's really great. Awesome.
I think you asked about Ybor too. Ybor is just unique. It's just a unique community. You know, you're in the middle of this historic district. It's unlike any other area in Tampa. I mean, it really is. And I think when you look at Tampa and the way it's growing, I believe that a lot of the things that you see that are happening with places like Armature Works and Sparkman's Wharf and the work that they've done downtown, I think a lot of the charm is modeled after Ybor itself. Right. You know, it's Ybor, there's just something about it. Like I said, you got all these different, all the people that own these businesses out here are all different, but they all care about the district. You have the chickens, you know, walking around, the Cuban history with the cigars and the immigrants. It's just a very, I always call it like the hidden jewel of Tampa, Florida. I believe it's incredible. You know, you don't see areas like this. And then when I've had, either when the bands come through or when I have friends come visit, every single person says the same thing. They're like, wow, I wish I had an area like this in my city. And in other interviews, I've always compared it to, you know, either the French Quarter in New Orleans or Key West or Brooklyn, or the Red River District, Austin. has a Red River district. It's just there's just something about this area, especially when things are going well. When everything's clicking, Ybor's just a magical place. So yeah, I couldn't imagine having this place anywhere.
Right. Yeah. When I moved back down, and I was actually born in Florida, I grew up in Jersey. When I moved back down, I moved to Tampa, and I came to Ybor for the first time. It was for a concert at the Ritz. It was for the Used, like way back. But it was. I remember just coming here and immediately falling in love. And all the places I had seen in Florida were just the fishing towns or a country or just nothing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Even just the architecture and. I mean, it's just it really is. It's a magical place. I'm glad to be a part of it. It means a lot to me. It really does.
Before we get, I want to start moving into now a little bit more present tense now that we've covered that. But before that, I wanted to know, is there any special memories like along this road? I mean, I'm sure there's a million, but like maybe some like, did you ever have any like dream acts come through as people you really wanted, or just some standout moments?
I mean, we've done all kinds of stuff. Like you said that you got engaged and stuff. We reenacted The Last Waltz here, which was a magical night. To have all these local artists and musicians that I care about on this stage reenacting such a piece of art itself, and to be a part of that, I was able to get up and I did the poetry reading parts, which, I always tell people, like, when you're in this industry, certain advantage, you get opportunities. And I've taken every opportunity that the community and the industry has brought me. And so I think personally, my greatest memories aren't the shows themselves. It's the relationships that you build from the shows. It's the load-ins, having these bands come in and they go, hey, where's good to eat? Well, come with me and I'll take them down the block. And then they're taking pictures with the chickens, and then we have bands that come through from Europe that aren't even from the United States. And then you see them on a podcast or a late night talk show and they're wearing a Crowbar shirt, and you become friends with these people and you build relationships. To me, that's the coolest part of it, is just stuff like that, having drinks with them after the show's over, being competitive, asking them, hey, where are you going? Where were you before this? Where are you going afterwards? That place is going to suck. Our place is better. And, telling them, hey, when you see, and that's another thing I do all the time. If I find out that they're playing like the Atlanta Masquerade after this, I'll be like, oh, go over there and tell this guy I said he's a jabroni or whatever, you just make fun, it's just, I don't know, the relationships and like I said, competing with the other venues and just trying to give those artists the best experience. So when they're doing these different things and people say, what was the favorite stop you had on tour? I always want Crowbar to come up when they talk about that and for them to remember that they were here. And whatever, however I am involved in that to facilitate that, I'll make sure I build that relationship with these artists, because I also want them to tell their management and their agents, like, hey, listen, when you route our next tour, please make sure that this stop is on there, because this guy took good care of us. He treated us good, and we want to play there every single time. It goes a long way.
That's awesome. And I've always thought that a life well lived would be, meeting all different kinds of people, having all different types of experiences. And it seems
every
like
day's
really,
different.
Yeah, you set yourself up for that
it's
perfectly.
So good. I mean, that's one of my favorite, that's why it's so important to me to protect the industry, because that's why I got involved in this in the first place, was because I wanted to meet different people every day. If you're meeting a different person that you've never met before, it can't get old, because it's always a challenge. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I want to just continue to challenge myself. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is putting myself out there and trying to do better than I did the last time. And so I've always told my wife, like, when it's all over, we'll open up, I always call it a retirement bar, like just like a little pub where we can, get a manager, but even work a couple day shifts myself and have something easy. But up until then, this is where my heart is. It's working with different people every single day and excelling each time.
Right.
And never getting old and just getting better at it.
Well, let's talk about the present tense, keeping this alive, keeping your heart here. Okay, it's been a long road for everyone this year, but for bars and venues, the first to close, it has been among the longest, and it's a fight. And from what I've heard you say, one of the hardest in your life. I was happy to see the Save Our Sages Fest raise almost $2 million going to this benefit, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Got to and I was watching the Foo Fighters, crying a little bit. It was very emotional, very emotional.
When you hear the stories and people talking about it, it is. I'm getting emotional right now. It's very emotional because those and so for me, I have an obligation to those other venue owners. That's how I look at it. I've formed a bond with these people. So, it's very difficult because we're all trying to get back to where we were, and I'll die on that team, to help make sure that happens for every single one of those other independent venue owners. Our hearts are in it, so yeah, man. But yeah, it's emotional.
Right. Can you tell us, you've been finally able to have some events again, and all of the work you've had to do to prep for that. Can you tell us about the emotions you've kind of felt being back? I know it's
a whirlwind. Sometimes I don't know how I feel about it. Sometimes for me, like I said, a lot of these other men and women aren't open.
Right.
I don't even know if we should be open. Like when I look at Florida, and what happened with the way we've done things in our state, because I'm here, I had to make the decision of if I was going to open or stay closed. And that was a very hard decision to make because I'm not sure if it's the right thing. I believe that the pandemic is extremely serious. And I believe that, and that was the other thing. I was like, I don't want to do anything that's going to, number one, contribute to this taking longer to get under control. And number two, I didn't want to screw up the message, And the first thing, of course, is people are telling me, I'm happy you're back. I'm happy you're back. And I'm like, I'm not fucking back, dude. Like, I'm nowhere close to being back. We still haven't gotten the federal funding we need, and bands are still not touring. Some here and there regionally and stuff, but they shouldn't be. Right. And most of them aren't. Most of the big agency groups that book the stuff are not doing it right now because it's not the time to be doing it. So, like I said, when the basis of my decision to open here goes back to how best can I help my community? Because there's a lot of people out here in the district right now that are open 100%, and to me being extremely irresponsible. So when I thought about it, I was like, I will probably do a better service to my community by opening at 25% capacity, socially distanced, mask required, and trying to use my influence, no matter what the governor says, to get other businesses to go, he's doing it the right way. And even though our governor's telling us we can open at 100%, it's probably not the right thing to do. If I influence out of 100 businesses out here, if I can get 2 to listen to me, I'm doing a better service than I think if I stay closed and don't do anything at all. And it also helps my staff make a little bit of money. But I'm not opening the way I'm opening and doing what I'm doing is not helping me lose any more money than I was already losing before, But like I said, I had to look at it like, how can I best help this situation and use my voice to get people to understand how important this really is. And so that's why I made the decision. At some point I could say, hey, these numbers are getting way too high. I'm going to shut down for another month because I don't believe it's safe. Right. I have a meeting with the governor next week. I'm going to be talking to his office, and I'm going to tell him, like, listen, I think that, you closed this down for 7 months when maybe you could have let us open. I mean, for the longest time, I was screaming from the top of my lungs for compliance and enforcement. Compliance and enforcement. To me, it should have never been about if you're a restaurant, a bar, or a music venue, or whatever we were. It should have just been about each person being responsible and everybody being safe. And if they weren't, then shut down those places that aren't even making an effort. You can't always, when you're a business owner, you're in control of your own destiny. So you can call all the shots. In this situation, and that's the other thing, people in this industry, we're strategic planners. If you're good at it, you're a strategic planner. I'm looking at the long game. I'm looking at 2023. So I'm not panicking now for, what am I going to do next Saturday? But unfortunately, I'm at the mercy of what's happening here in our state, which I don't think is very good at all. And so I'm still continuing to try to do as much of this and as many things as possible to try to get that message out that it's not over, and we haven't even rounded the bend.
Right.
We got a long way to go. And aside from just the massive health risk that we're dealing with, the tour industry itself is very far from coming back to where it should be. It'll be, and I believe here in Florida, because like I said, we're not a primary market, it's going to be a long time before artists on the regular come back here. Our low numbers that we're having right now, there's states that haven't even hit those low numbers that aren't open. You got to think about that. That's
right.
So when I did that panel today earlier, this national panel, and there was somebody from Philadelphia on it, another person from the Midwest, trying to explain my situation to them where they're not even open and they're having like 500 cases a day.
Right.
And they're going, wow, I can't believe you're open. That's crazy. But, that's what happens when you do a national crisis handled by a state by state. I mean, it just doesn't work.
And for people who, this is one thing that I was really shocked to see, and I don't think people really understand what this will look like. 90% of venues were reporting closure without funding on the NEVA website. And I don't think people really understand what that looks like.
That's massive.
Yeah, that is, is there any way you can paint a picture of what, for any doubters, what that would look like?
We're in the shit right now.
Right.
It's really bad. I think there's some, like I said, a little delusional activity here in Florida because of the way things have been handled. If you look at the rest of the country, there's states that their peak was 1,500 cases.
Right.
Not 15,000.
Right.
So, and that they're still closed. So we got a long way to go. And that 90% that you're talking about, we've already had, I think, 300 venues close out of the couple thousand. Others that are not closed yet are only not closed because they've told their people, this funding's coming and these people are waiting. But if the funding doesn't close, they're broke.
Right.
That's it. And I think that, there's this, and people say all the time, they don't want to politicize it, but it's been politicized.
Right.
We would have had the funding already if things hadn't become politicized. And the people that are on the Trump side of things or whatever, for whatever reason, I don't know why they feel this way, but I know for a fact because I've developed quite an amount of great followers, but I also have a lot of trolls now.
Yeah.
And I'll post an article or a comment or say something, and immediately it's your problem. Why should the government bail you out? Get your shit together. You guys should have figured it out, or you could become a restaurant. Listen, dude, the government shut me down. If the government says to you, you can't open for half a year, the government should have taken that into consideration when that happened, unless the government doesn't care. And I personally believe that you've got a lot of politicians that co-sponsored this bill that do support it, but you also have a lot of them that I believe look at this, and you can look at the division. They talk about there's many problems going on in the country right now. Systemic racism, sexism, but there's also a massive divide in wealth and power. And prior to COVID, gentrification was already happening all over the country. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but I do believe that there, by some sort of design, wealthy land developers donate to campaigns.
Right.
You know, so if you have, if you look at Ybor City prior to COVID, places like New World Brewery were forced out, so condos could go up. Czar is no longer there because Hotel Haya is there now, which nothing against Hotel Haya, but the thing is, it's the small independent businesses that get forced out of these areas as they, the living area over there, for the housing for the less fortunate over there, all those people it's going to be gone, and all those people are going to get relocated. I look at some of them, I'm like, maybe they're not trying to help us as quickly as they should, because they figure if we can't keep up on our rent, our landlord can't, he's not a rich guy. So a developer comes in and says, hey, listen, I'll give you this for that building now, and they'll take it now. And eventually this place gets bulldozed and a condo goes up over here. I think some people don't think about stuff like that. And they just think, well, even if Crowbar went out of business or one of these independent venues went out of business, when this thing is over, somebody will go in there and put another independent venue. Somebody might not, because it might not be a venue anymore. It might be a condo. Or another thing that can happen is the big guys like Live Nation and AEG Live come in and buy up those rooms, and then they control the market, and they route tours for bands and pay them far less than they would get paid, because there's no independent venues left. And then there's a monopoly. So that's what it looks like. That's the dangers that we face, that I just don't think a lot of people have really grasped the totality of the situation.
Right. It was already a fight before COVID, and now you're seeing it's destroyed pretty much the industry. Now people are taking that opportunity, trying to move ahead. Right.
And that's why the NEVA organization, us all, so when I say, like, I'm thinking 2023, we've already, as an organization, we all work together. We're watching each other's backs, and our goal is, no, we're going to get through this. That's the SOS Fest. That was, the whole point of that was, we're not getting this funding yet. It's been politicized. Let's put on our own thing. We'll try to raise as much money as possible, and we'll try to get money to the 20 or 30 venues that are in danger of closing right now. We'll try to get each one of them $25,000 to keep these people alive, and then just pass it out and pay it forward. It's just what we're going to have to do until this funding even when the funding comes through, there's still going to be a lot of work to do to get back to where we got to get back to do it right. But once we do that, which we will, because we're all very talented, determined, smart business people that are passionate about this industry. Once we get through it, I look forward to the next set of challenges and the new things that we can do to make ourselves that much stronger as independent venues. To build those relationships and work together for a common good, I think we can do a lot. I'm very excited about it. I plan to stay with that. It's been a godsend being involved, and to actually have people that you could talk to a couple times a week that are in the exact, that get it.
Right.
We joke around about some of the shit that people say to us on the internet, because we all are in the same situation. So we get how stupid some of it sounds when somebody says something like that. Just become a restaurant. Like, I'm not a restaurateur.
Right,
I'm a concert venue, dude. That's what I do. That's why I got into this.
Well, I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear the optimism and the drive, and I'm sure the people who are listening are absolutely glad to hear that. And for the people who are listening, who care and they want to help keep not only us get through saving our stages now, but continue that fight against just local art being gentrified. What is the best place they can put their efforts? What is the best thing they can do to help you?
Well, I tell people all the time, like, the only thing that helps Crowbar is to help these other places. So that's where I've put my whole fight. As far as our locally, what we can do, and I've been saying it all year long, vote. I mean, you have to vote. If you don't like what's going on in your community, it's because of the elected officials that we put in there. And if they're not doing the things that we need them to do, whether they be city councilmen or county commission or city councilmen or women, county commissioners, our mayor, our governors, you got to vote, you know? And I also think that the people that some of us need to at some point run ourselves too, probably, you know, not that if some of us ran that we'd all win, but it lets those people that we're talking to saying, hey, this is a problem. We need your support. We need your help. If we start running ourselves, it keeps them focused on it reminds them that they're a public servant. You know, if we're letting these people do these kind of things and letting our areas gentrified and letting them vote to do things like put 4-lane highways and rip out neighborhoods and do these crazy things, and we put those people in office and we don't like it, we have to vote and get them out of there and put people in there that are passionate about the things that we want to see and the things that we want protected. So that's what we have to do.
Vote. And the time is now. And then what a great time for this. So,
yeah.
I really appreciate you sitting down with us, Tom. I really hope that people who are listening, that you've got the real scoop here. You've heard it from right from the best source. And if you care, if you want to make a change, if you want to help with the stages, which we're fighting, the fight is now. Vote, like you said, that's the solution.
You got to vote, and you know I do want to say too that there's area businesses out here that are bending over backwards to be as responsible as possible. Places like Ella's, New World Brewery, Shuffle, being extremely safe. You know, so patronize those. Go to the places that are doing whatever it takes to make sure that they're not doing like super spreader events. You know, and I think it's common sense, but I would avoid any place that's like doing like 100% capacity and not being cautious. You know, we owe it to our communities to be careful. You know, I mean, music's important, but you can't do anything that's going to risk, you know, people's that have a health condition or their parents or their grandparents getting sick. I mean, it's just, we got to be safe. We got to be safe. We got to protect one another. We got to protect our communities.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it, and I hope that people listening got know where to go now. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us on our special first video episode of Eat the Artist podcast here in Crowbar. Make sure to support and come out. And where can they check out the website and find out about upcoming events?
The website's crowbarebor.com, and then the Facebook is like Crowbar, I think it's /Crowbar Live. I mean, you'll find it.
Yeah, we'll make sure, and we'll have a link in the description, so go check it out. Yeah. Make sure you support the local arts.
Twitter, we're all over there.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys. Take care. Panda Pals out.
Nice.
Wow, that was awesome.
Did you like it?
Yes, that was great.
Do a photo with it real quick?